Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Phil Pinarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're all having a great start to your Wednesday. News 8 digital reporter Matt Jaworowski is here, as he is every Wednesday, to discuss his Sunday story. And this week, he focused on the restricted publications list for prisoners here in Michigan. Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the Live Desk today.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah, no, and the story, a lot of complicated issues, obviously a lot of moving parts. It's centered around a very complicated issue of granting those who are incarcerated the access to certain books, magazines, publications, and articles that they are maybe want to know a little bit more about. Matt, kind of explain what is the center of this whole controversy.
Yeah, so obviously book bans are a relevant topic right now. A lot of discussions around our public libraries. But people may not realize is that most prison systems have a banned book list as well, a restricted items list. And so I want to take a look at the one in Michigan and some of what advocates are saying needs to be changed about their system. The current list has roughly 1,200 items, most of them books that for one reason or another the MDOC has flagged for safety reasons. A lot of them are just like over-the-top sexual violent content that they don't want in the prisons. Then there's others where it's potential to incite violence or encourage organized violence, those kind of things that the MDOC has cited for why they shouldn't be allowed in our prisons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we're showing some of the books that are on that restricted list right now. Bookkeeping for Dummies, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Master Guide. Can you kind of just touch on some of the other book items or restricted publications that are on that list that maybe some of us would be kind of surprised at knowing that prisoners aren't allowed to check them out?
Yeah, and that was kind of what first got me interested in this story. Is obviously I can understand why there are certain really illicit titles out there that they don't want in the prisons. Then you see something like bookkeeping for dummies or learning how to code or how to become an electrician, those kind of things. It kind of flies against what you would think the MDOC wants to do as far as helping inmates gain life skills to help them use once they've served their sentence and are out of prison. However, some of those books have been cited for various reasons. I know the bookkeeping one, they talk about, when I talked to MDOC spokesperson Chris Gotts, they don't want certain prisoners being able to continue committing crimes from behind bars, and so a lot of that had to do with like filing false tax forms and those kind of things. And Gotts made the argument of, we have so many education programs already in place within our prisons that if there was an inmate who wanted to learn about bookkeeping, he could do that through one of their programs, and that so that prisoner can go that route instead of having the books available for general population use. So he kind of argued like, if someone's in prison for life, we know that they don't need bookkeeping skills for life after prison, so we want to limit those abilities for them. But we have these options available for everyone else.
Right, and it kind of ties back into that whole First Amendment versus safety sort of issue that you touched on in the story. But it did seem like the Michigan Department of Corrections was willing to maybe make some changes or potentially re-evaluate that list. You touched on it towards the end of that article. What are they saying now to maybe sort of bridge that gap a little bit between both sides?
So they're putting together a new committee that's basically going to take charge of this. Right now, it's very decentralized. Basically, every prison or jail system, they have their own employees, and as mail comes into the prison, those specific mail rooms are in charge of vetting this material. MDOC is in the process of launching a new committee that will instead handle that entire vetting process. And in doing this, they hope to make it more uniform. They hope to make a more incentivized appeals process so that prisoners can actually state their case if a book gets rejected for some other reason. And they also hope to actually scale down the list. So one of the little interesting things I learned through my research is that a book being sent to a prison for an inmate has to be a new book. It can't be something that's used. And so there's a lot of books of like Internet for Dummies that was published in 1994 A, it's not really relevant now, but B, you're going to have a very hard time finding a new copy of that anyway. So that's an example of something that might be taken off the list. There's also others. I know one of the big highlights of the story is the Dungeons and Dragons series. They're looking at some of those books. The games they do not allow to play. MDOC doesn't like the cosplay issue of the game. They believe it could lead to some form of gang violence or could hide gang activity. And then also, they don't allow any dice in the prisons because those can be used for gambling. So Dungeons & Dragons then can't be played regardless. However, if there are some just diehard Dungeons & Dragons fans in prison, they're looking at what about strategy books that don't actually involve playing the game? Those can now be considered for use.
Definitely, and it feels like there is going to be some changes at the very least, and we're of course going to be on top of that. Matt, we want to thank you again for coming on the live desk. If you have not gotten the chance to check out Matt's latest Sunday story, I highly encourage you checking it out. It can be found right now over on our website, woodtv.com. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can find a link to it directly in the comment section or description box. Matt, once again, thank you for coming on the live desk today.
Anytime, thank you.
Yep, and I want to thank everybody else for tuning in to this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Pinarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.